Consider this your trigger warning. The following program is strictly satire and is not meant to be taken seriously. So don't get all butthurt, you liberal snowflakes, just because we skewer your sacred cows and expose all your lies and hypocrisy. Truth hurts, and so does satire. So grab a drink, pull up a chair, and enjoy the show.
Did we mention this show is satire? A lot of people seem to have missed that. Folks, it is the Prepared Mind channel. It is Sunday Night Live. This is the zoo. And guess what? We're on the backup to the backup to the backup channel. So people are having a hard time finding us. Maybe if you hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up so you get notifications and everything else. Well, the hardcore Prepared Mind fans, you are here and we want to talk about what's happening. So we'll stay here as long as you want. It may be an abbreviated show because we got 2 full weeks of punishment from YouTube for doing that, which many other channels are now doing. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we get rolling. But, you know, it's been a long weekend and a good weekend. And so I figured I would start with Darcy T. She did a $100 Super Chat donation through PayPal, which of course buys a Glenn Levitt for me because, well, just because. The Get the Back and See Your Grandson, right? Get the hell back and see your grandson in California fund. And I want to thank Darcy for contributing 100 to that. So there it is. It is the This Shot Glass Stopped a Bullet. Ooh, is this spot? Nothing like a good shot of Scottish water to start off. And this is what Darcy T has to say. Good evening, John. No question, just some cash for the till. Well, Darcy, if something comes to mind while we're going, you know we'll always want to hear what you have to say, bringing up from time to time some of the most provocative and thought-provoking questions, comments, statements, etc. And another one that we've got just sitting out here, just waiting for some attention would be Chin Music. And he let me know that he got a new toy. And also he did a 30-06 Super Chat Venmo donation. So kicking off the bat really good with a strong start on the Super Chats to, well, fly the old man back to meet his new grandson next month. Thank you guys yet again. You know, I've now reserved the tickets, and I'm really hoping that I don't go to get on the plane and they go, you're that guy, and you've been canceled. Wouldn't that be interesting if they canceled me and said, nope, you are on the travel list, John, travel restricted list? That would piss me off good. I don't think I am, though. I really don't think I am. Let's hope not. Anyways, folks, we have a lot to talk about. Things have gotten really bad. Things have gotten worse. But guess what? The topics, I think, really say a lot about what's going on. There's what's being talked about on the daily news that we're seeing. And then, surprisingly, there's what's going on behind the scenes, which is bigger and more important and is being overshadowed. And I'll tell you, number one, right off the bat, this whole Budweiser thing is a complete and total, utter distraction. At the same time, it is part of the war, part of the SHTF, part of canceling and destroying America. And we'll discuss how that works and why they're doing it. I'll discuss all of that with you. But first, let's get into you guys. What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind? We've got Jolene in the background. We've got Ooman with the big blue wrench. And we've got ourselves a zoo, folks. So let's have some fun with it. And you guys, because it's a fourth string quarterback Prepared Mind show, we're going to take super chat donations, number one. Then we'll take premium subscribers who we know who you are, right? Coming off of the preparedmind.club as well as subscribestar.com. And both Chin Music and Darcy T are members there. And then if anyone just has a question that just blows things away, we'll see if we got time for that. But it could just be a short night, because, well, we'll find out. We'll find out. But we have some very, very powerful topics. And you're not going to hear these discussed the way we will discuss them here. Okay, Jolene, let's do this. Let's step in, and we've got Chin Music. Good, good, good. He did send a beautiful Venmo, 30-6 donation. He says, John, it finally happened. I had some soy boy lunatic start ranting at me at the gas station about my fuck Joe Biden FJB window sticker. As he walked up on me, I calmly told him to calm down, and if he put his hands on me without permission, we would visit a place that one of us might not come back from. Whoa! Folks, by the way, Chin Music is a large Scandinavian man. He says, it seemed to diffuse the situation, and he made the wise choice. Brother, after that and what happened last night in Chicago, everyone in the Prepared Mind family, I urge you to take self-defense classes and always practice situational awareness. My classes are packed. People are scared. John, thanks for all you do, my Viking big in San Antonio brother. You bet, man. I tell you what, the lefties are coming unglued. They're being inspired to commit acts of violence. They're being told, you better speak up or all the trans are going to be killed in what they're calling and they continue to call. I mean, I'm trying to think of a better term than what they use. To say that they're all being killed in a genocide is just ridiculous. They are not a culture. They are not a people. They are not a race. They are people with mental illness. And it's continuing to show in everything they say and do. So let us take a look here. What do we got? Let me start here. I want to cover this before we get to the next super chat donation. Now, in war, folks, the least useful are the most disposable. The least trained are the ones that get sacrificed first. In the Democrat warrior lineup, here is the batting order. The least useful are idiot college students, like the one that likely came up to Chin Music and tried to get tough. Now, I really do appreciate the fact that he let him know ahead of time what pain was coming for him if he tried anything. So after the useful street idiot comes the trans and LGBTs. After that comes the BLM slime, and after that comes Antifa. Every one of those groups, college students, trans and LGBTs, BLM slime, and Antifa, they're violent. They're absolutely radical and violent. And here's the deal. They are not going to change this country, but they can change your world. They can cause pain, suffering, loss, and destruction on an individual basis. Look what the trans murderer did in Nashville. Killed 3 children. Killed 3 adults. More trans wannabe murderers have been caught, captured, and arrested. Right? This is what we're seeing. There was some film footage from over the weekend in Washington State at a university. Right? A young Republican had a table set up with some buttons and pins and some paraphernalia discussing their, shall we say, moral and social perspective. And a left-wing college idiot decided to come up, talk some trash, and then flip the table over. It is being investigated, and I doubt anyone will get in trouble. even though it was all captured on film. But that's their lineup, folks. They're most disposable, most dispensable, easy to sacrifice, idiot college students who will run and hide at the first moment that they're in trouble. Trans and LGBTs, very violent, committing acts of murder, committing acts of terrorism, and threatening to commit more terrorism and murder. BLM, same story, committed lots of murder, burning, loot, murdering, lots of crime. And Antifa, avowed communist, violent scum, well organized and pretending not to be a terror group. And of course, Joe Biden, the Attorney General's office, and the FBI don't consider them a threat. Now, all useful idiots, folks, these groups I named are there because of their willingness to commit acts of violence, but they offer no real substance beyond being sacrificial in starting a partisan war with you. And so I agree with Chin Music when he says Americans should take self-defense, whether it's hand-to-hand or with a weapon, right? Getting a concealed weapons permit, or if you're one of the states that has constitutional carry. That is to say, the state recognizes that we, the people, have that right to keep and bear arms, and it doesn't require government permission. Now, there is a historical reference that I can make that lines up this. Well, in war, the least useful are the first to be sacrificed. In the 1500s and about that time frame in history, there was an invasion of Europe, and it's not covered well in the history books. It's kind of looked over, but it was the Sultan and the Muslims trying to invade Europe from the east by coming up through Constantinople or Turkey up into Hungary, and then trying to get into Vienna and Central Europe from there. The Sultan used his Muslim warriors, the same way that the Democrats are using their fruitcakes while trying to invade Europe. What the Sultan had were two groups of fighters, the Akinjis, who were basically undisciplined mobs of warriors, and then there were Janissaries, who were more disciplined and better trained as a fighting force. And they were used quite differently. One would be used to bash and batter about, and the others were used strategically. So what we see, folks, is on the street level, these fruitcakes act out violently. They're undisciplined. They aren't coordinated. But Antifa and some of BLM are more coordinated and have some sort of at least communist training on what it is they're fighting for. But they're all dispensable, disposable, and sacrificial pawns. And if the Bidens and Democrats were to take back, right, total control and put it into big government, you see America, the United States has only been free of tyrannical government for just over 200 years. And in fact, you could make the argument that it's been semi-tyrannical for the last 50 to 100 years. So we've only been free, historically speaking, a very short time. And they're trying to take that government control back. And they'll use their useful idiots, folks, where they think they're best played. And what we're seeing is how that works. The same way I've described the communists in Russia. When they took over, once they got power and they controlled the new Russian military, the Soviet military, they disposed of their radical, violent terrorist base. So when you think about the trans and the LGBT types and the BLM types and even the Antifa types, they are not loved, they are not cared for, they're not treasured, and they won't move into positions of power and control in the new regime if they were to take control. They are sacrificial idiots. Now, the ones on the street, the ones who I said are the least important, right? These college educated, self-hating, self-loathing idiots, like the one that turned over, right, the table, the ones that showed up when the sun was up during the summer of 2020 to chant and to protest, but they didn't fight at night. They went away and hid, right? These are the same one, the little boys and little girls who wore masks on their faces to hide their identity. But when the sun is up, folks, and they aren't in power, they act just like they're one of everyone else. Right now, though, they are being promoted. They're being encouraged to fight, to talk tough. And I'm not going to tell you to have a sticker on your car or your truck that says something like FJB, fuck Joe Biden, right? Or flying a flag. Folks, I know people and have seen people flying fuck Joe Biden flags, and they'll drive up and down the street and nobody says a fucking word to them because they don't give a shit what anyone else thinks. I have had people, not since 2020, but past in my life, want to pick a fight. And I think that Chin Music's example is a good one. See, I'm not looking for a fight, but some people want to fight about stuff. And so I've let people know what would happen to them if they were to try and pick a fight with me, that they would end up being hurt really badly, and then they would be arrested for assaulting me. You know, and so that's stopped people from wanting more violence. When you start describing the pain and suffering they'll be in for days and weeks as they recover, right, in jail, because I have a right to self-defense and I will use it. Right now, it's very interesting, folks, where we're at right now. Social media is a home for these coward idiot leftists, whether it's on YouTube, which is full of them, or Twitter, which is still full of left-wing idiots. It's not like all the left-wing idiots left and it's now been replaced by moderates and Republicans. It's still populated heavily by these losers, and they feel they're fighting a war. Well, in truth, they are. It's a war where they can't get their asses kicked, where their identity remains hidden. I'm not afraid to come out here and show my face and say, you know, don't fucking try it with me. You won't be happy with the results. I'm waiting for the day, though, when 2 or 3 of them show up with baseball bats, right, while I'm filling up at the fuel station. That will be an interesting day because it still won't end well for them. I've taken bats from people. Okay. Yeah. It's not fun or easy. Kind of hurts them a little bit, but you can do it. Anyways, self-defense. Very advisable at this point with these people who are being encouraged to commit serious acts of violence. The threats, right? The threats. Okay, let's do this. Let's do another super chat donation. I think we've got one here. It is, well, John D steps in and says, "Fight on, Patriots." Thank you very much, John D, for that. It is a great message that I want everyone to hear. We're in it. The fight is on. The fight is truly on. If you don't believe me, look outside. Do you recognize America? I certainly do not. I don't recognize it one bit, hardly. When I look at the news and see what the hell is happening, it's quite an interesting thing. So let's do more super chat donation, and we've got Cottage Farm checking in, who says Washington State went full evil. There's a new law that allows the state to take children if parents don't agree to gender stuff. What she's referring to, and thank you very much, Cottage Farm. I hope you're doing well out there in the great state of commie Washington. Yeah, there's California, and I don't know. It's horrifying. It's such a beautiful state, Washington, especially along the coast. Some people like the high desert. Some people like the mountains. It's got all kinds of stuff. It's got an archipelago of islands, and it's just jam-packed full of evil, idiotic, left-wing fruitcakes. But what they've done is they've said, well, if parents do not agree to allow their children to do gender transition surgeries and procedures, then the state can come and take them. Since when is the government? It makes zero sense. Okay, so a child wants to mutilate their genitals, mutilate their development system, their endocrine system, their hormonal system, mutilate it and damage it with drugs. If you don't agree to allow your child to do that, then the state can take them from you, and the state will ensure that they can do that. In other words, it is now state mandated, state sanctioned decision making for kids, children. Folks, children are not allowed to do a number of things. They can't own a gun, they can't buy alcohol, they can't own property, they can't sign contracts. Right? Any minor wants to go in the military, they've got to get the parents to sign the paperwork because they are not competent adults. It doesn't mean they don't have rights. It means they are not competent. They're not capable. They don't understand what it is they're doing because they're minors. Yet the state gives them the authority, the power to cut off their own genitals, to mutilate themselves, to sterilize themselves, to psychologically traumatize themselves. That's where we're at. Thank you very, very, very much there, Cottage Farm, letting the world know, yeah, Washington State has gone down that road. The state is splitting itself into two, just like California is splitting itself into two. Oregon, same story. The conservative areas, or constitutional areas, if you will, or the law-abiding, justice-seeking parts of the states, they want to split off. We're going to have a major divorce. States are going to divorce themselves from Washington, D.C., and conservative areas of the states are going to divorce themselves from the lunatics. The lunatics who are now running their own asylums in places like SeaTac, Portland, San Francisco Bay Area, and Los Angeles. The rest of the states on the West Coast seem to understand what the hell is going on. You know, it's called reality. All right, Jolene, who else wants to step on up on this Sunday Night Live? And it's Charles Gentry. And he says, any thoughts on 147 of the 200 odd countries on the planet applying to join BRICS and the decoupling from the dollar completely? Oh yeah, I've got a shit pile of thoughts. You see all of this trans crap, this Budweiser and Dylan McAvaldi, the fruitcake who thinks he's a girl who wants to sit in a bathtub full of bubbles with a Bud Light and drink it. And we're supposed to take the time to understand that person who has a serious mental illness? No, that is really not what is important. That is the distraction, but there is good news there, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it. But at this moment, we're going to talk about what Charles wants to discuss. BRICS, which is an acronym for the financial, monetary, and also military union that's developed to distinguish itself from the North American, European syndicate that controls everything through its banking system and inter-country payment system, the SWIFT system. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, South Africa. But yeah, it's up to 147 countries have now either joined or want to participate. And I think there's well more than 200 countries on the planet, but 200 are the major ones. This is incredible, folks. Why would they want to join BRICS? Well, the little countries have learned that if you piss off the United States, they punish you. They sanction you. They keep you from doing business with other countries. And if any country does business that is not sanctioned or allowed by the United States or Europe, then that country gets punished. Russia, folks, was punished and the United States seized their money along with Europe and NATO. And they said, well, we're just not going to pay you for all of those bonds you have, US bonds or treasuries, whatever they are. Well, the other countries are like, whoa, whoa. You mean if we loan you money by buying a bond or treasury note, you can just say we're not paying you back because you don't like us? Because we haven't kissed your ass, Joe Biden? The answer is yeah, you can lose all of your investment. So why would any country invest in America? And that's the decoupling from the dollar completely that's coming, right? Why should you buy US dollars just so you can buy oil from Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates or Russia for that matter? Well, you don't have to anymore. That's what the BRICS is about, creating a cross-border international payment system. So you can trade, if you're in India, rupees, or if you're in Russia, rubles, or in China, yuan. I think Kenya the other day is able to trade their currency for oil. Folks, Nigeria is one of the biggest, most prolific oil producers on the planet. You think they need US dollars to do their job? And that's just it. The rest of the world needed US dollars before, but through abuse and weaponization of our currency, your currency, America, they've used it as a weapon to control other nations, and other nations are tired of that shit. They're tired of the Joe Biden. They're tired of the European. They're tired of the deep state. They're tired of the banking cartels of the West controlling the system. But rather than fix their problems and knock this shit off, just like the rest of the Democrats and the socialists, they are doubling down, tripling down, and they're driving more countries to leave the United States. They can get food from other places around the world. They can get oil, that is to say, energy, the energy to run their buses, trucks, trains, and planes, to run their cars, to heat or cool their homes. They can get that energy with their own currency, which needs to be backed by their own commodities. So an agricultural country produces agriculture, and their currency is based on the productivity. If they have metals like iron, zinc, lead, copper, lithium, cobalt, name your useful metal, nickel. If you own mineral commodities, then your currency is based on that. And once again, if you are productive, then your currency has value and you can trade with it. What is the United States dollar backed by? If you said gold, you are incorrect. If you said silver, you are incorrect. If you think it's copper, that's incorrect. The full faith and credit of the United States, of the people of the U.S., you and I as people, we are what backs the U.S. dollar. The full faith and credit of the United States people. What the heck does that even mean? What does that even mean anymore? Coming from the U.S. government that puts "in God we trust" on the money, do you believe that for a stinking second? That the United States government and the Federal Reserve Bank and the U.S. Treasury put their trust in God? These are the same people, folks, that are pushing all this woke shit. Do you think for a half a freaking second that God has anything to do with the currency? It's a sham. It is a sham. It is a mockery of what money should be. Gold is money, folks. Everything else is credit. You could say copper, right? You could say silver. They're all what coins used to be made out of, right? Shillings, pound, right? And gold sovereigns. That's right, folks. Real things are money. Everything else is just credit. It's a line of credit. It's bullshit. And the rest of the world has had it. And we are going to suffer for it in America. For a long time, we benefited from it, but now we're going to suffer. Are you prepared? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Do you have a plan, folks? Because they're bringing the system down. Let me give you another little taste of what they're doing here to keep us distracted. But you can see what really needs to happen. Now, with all of this Bud Light crap going on, Budweiser has lost $7 billion in value and support. 7 billion US credibility dollars, right? Faith dollars. No one has faith and wants to extend credit to Budweiser, right? And they ended up writing, the CEO ended up writing a piss poor, pitiful letter that wasn't even an apology. And it basically mocks America. Right. Instead of condemning Bud for this, though, Budweiser, I want to congratulate them for doing this stupid ad campaign with Bud Light. I want to thank them for that. And I want to congratulate them for that, for putting an extreme fruitcake right on a can of their product. I'm sorry to everyone who has Budweiser stock or Anheuser-Busch stock or their parent company. See, Anheuser-Busch is not even an American company, but still, I want to thank them for doing that because it woke up America. It got America's attention on a much wider scale. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of jokes and memes. And folks, humor. This show is satire. Humor gets through to people and reaches them. And they put an extreme fruitcake on a can, and it did it, folks. It woke up America. It's a distraction, but it has woken up America. It has brought to the attention of America that Budweiser is no longer owned by us Americans as an American brand. It is now a fruitcake brand. And it's just another useful corporate toy for the World Economic Forum and mega billionaires to try and control us. But they've been rejected. But their use of the fruitcake has woken up America. It has pissed them off and inspired people to speak out, condemn and ridicule not just Budweiser, not just the little fruitcake on the can, but the entire woke movement is now under fire. That is a good thing that America's woken up and said, hey, no more of this shit. In fact, there are apps that are coming out to help you avoid woke companies that support this trans crap and children destroying themselves. Look out. The battle has started, folks. The street battle is what we're seeing on your store shelves. The government is fighting a battle against other countries who are rejecting what they want to sell on their shelves, i.e., right, bonds, treasury bills, right? Investing in America is what America, the government, sells, and people aren't buying it anymore. Very interesting stuff, folks. All right, where are we at? Okay, let's do this. Let's do some more Subscribe Star, Prepared Mind, Premium. We got Eli in the Wolverine State. And he says, BRICS currency don't mean crap without food to back it. Currencies aren't worth anything if they can't buy food. I hear you, man. But let's see. These other countries are not starving to death. Now, could they get into trouble? Yes, it definitely can become a big problem. It can become a big problem. You see, what gives currency, not money, what gives currency value is people's belief that it has value. The people have belief that it has value. If they don't believe in it, then they don't accept it, right? Or they say, look, I don't really think this money's worth as much, so I want you to pay me double what the US dollar I think is worth. And then I'll take your currency, your paper money. Where is the United States government's money in other countries? What do people believe is backing it? You know, that's the trick, right? What is backing the US dollar? Gold, silver? No. Copper? No. It's the full faith and credit of the American people. In other words, they're trying to say we, the people, are what backs the money. We are what gives it its value. Well, they're printing the ever-loving shit out of this money and handing it to banks, not to you and me. And who owns the banks? The very rich, the extremely rich, the 1% rich. Right? And then they turn around and they blow this money worldwide, and they can buy things cheap. Mega companies like Walmart, they buy a lot of crap cheap around the world with money that was printed just for them. Look out, folks. Don't be fooled. Unless it's gold or silver or even copper, it's not real money. It's just whether or not you believe it has value. Countries like Venezuela and their bolivar, years ago we watched the bolivar go down, right? 5 bolivar used to buy a cup of coffee. It went all the way to 1,000,000 bolivar, hyperinflation, because the people no longer trusted the currency. Right? That's why the money says, in God we trust, as if God, right, gives the dollar its value. But down in, right, Venezuela, nah. Years ago in Zimbabwe, you know, it would take 1,000,000 of their units of currency to buy a cup of coffee. They printed trillion-dollar notes, or bills, if you will. And again, I want to remind you, just the nomenclature, the words we use to describe the US dollar. It is a dollar bill, is it not? Right? When you owe money, the person that says you owe, what do they hand you? They hand you a bill. They hand you a bill. Your mortgage, which means you owe money, what is that called? That's called the note. There's a note on your deed, a mortgage note, right? So a note means you owe. A note means you owe, right? So the dollar, whether referred to as a note or a bill, it represents debt and essentially servitude. That's what we have, folks. We've got a bunch of debt, all of these bills, these notes out here. Federal Reserve note, dollar bill. Those are borrowed by the government, meaning the government owes the Federal Reserve the value of that thing, and we get to trade them as if they are worth something. What gives them their power to purchase is a belief that they're valuable. And with well over 100 countries around the world saying we don't need dollars anymore, that is showing a lack of confidence, right? A lack of faith in the note, in the bill, in the value, right? Now, what if a country wants to buy food and import food, as brought up in the last comment? What if the country they're trying to buy food from does not accept their currency? Let's just pick a country out of the world. Let's just pick on Zimbabwe again. They say, hey, we don't trust the Zimbabwe note. And then the company in Zimbabwe says, well, what about the United States? I've got some US dollars. We want to buy a boatload of food. And what if they say, no, we don't accept their notes either? See what I'm saying? Now, the BRICS countries don't have a unifying currency. They don't have a dollar or a euro, but they have a exchange system putting value on what it is they have, right? Commodity-backed currency. It's going to get very ugly as this develops and it gains momentum. These countries are not sitting by idly and watching, folks, their country be destroyed. To the contrary, they're saying this is what we have to offer the rest of the world in trade and in commerce, and we want it to have value. So what this new system that is coming encourages is productivity. Once again, whether it's agriculture, whether it's mineral, or whether it's technological, you have to have something of value to give your currency, well, value. You have to be productive as a country in order to give the currency value. So the government of those countries needs to what? Get the hell out of people's way so that they can be productive and stop living off of the people like kings while the people suffer in squalor. Or even the kings in those countries will be shoved by the wayside. Kind of like the idiot that was chased out of, what was it, the leadership in Indonesia? It's coming, folks. There's a lot crazier times coming right now. All right, Jolene, what do we want to bring up? We got C. And C says, what I want to know is if the value of the dollar goes down, that means the value of stocks go down. That means a company's value goes down. Correct. Because neither the dollar, nor the stock, nor the company are desired. Okay? If the dollar goes down, then everything else goes down with it. Unless people throw their money at it. In hard times, where does smart money go? It goes into what are known as safe haven assets. Typically, it used to be bonds, government bonds, and gold. But if the government is untrustworthy or untrusted, and the interest rates are very low and inflation is high, who would buy a bond guaranteeing a yield of 5%, knowing that it is going to go down in value 50% because of inflation? You're guaranteeing a loss. So no one who is of their right mind in a high inflation or super inflationary system, they're going to buy bonds. In fact, right now, I have it on good authority that the bonds that are being bought to keep the United States government going, those bonds are being purchased by a shell corporation or corporations in the Cayman Islands. Isn't that interesting? No longer is it Russia or China. No longer is it Europe buying United States treasuries, notes, bonds. Nope. It's all being pumped electronically to keep the value up. Shit has hit the fan, folks, very badly. We called it back in September of 2019. It is now April 16th, 2023. And oh yeah, it's time to pay your taxes, America. It's time to pay your taxes. Sheesh. Right? But see, the government doesn't want to accept responsibility for what it has done. It doesn't. It doesn't want to accept responsibility for what it's done. Just like the rest of government and those who are living off of the productivity of others. For example, community leaders, folks, in Chicago. I love how they call them community leaders. That's code for ghetto scum with big mouths. They're pissed because businesses are leaving Chicago. They're leaving Illinois. And so the government and those that live off of the productivity of others are suffering. They can't get food. They can't get money. They're not living very well. Well, they don't want to accept responsibility that is their decisions. Just like Mayor Beetlejuice didn't want to accept any responsibility for the negative things that occurred because of its policies. But this is what's going on. Policies of Democrats in America are destroying cities, they're destroying states, and they're destroying the country. And they don't want to take responsibility. Instead, they want to blame business for leaving. And I'll tell you what, businesses are leaving the United States altogether, not just from Chicago or LA or San Francisco or New York. They're taking their business and they're leaving and going overseas. Now, let me ask you this. let me let me quiz you on this. These corporations move their productive assets overseas, their means of production, their capability. What makes you think that they have to do business in the United States anymore? They can just leave this country and go work for, you guessed it, other countries and participate in the BRICS system. Corporations, folks, they don't give a shit anymore. Why should they? They should be on the take, just like any good government employee, don't you think? This is where we're at. Business is taking a shit. Business is leaving Democrat zones, these socialist zones. In America, we're staying here in our country. We're going to fight for our country, but it's going to be one hell of a fight. I don't want to see any of the BRICS currencies in America, and I wouldn't trade a dollar for them, period. But the dollar itself is going to lose its value and continue to lose its value. And the indication that it's losing value is it doesn't purchase as much as it did. The dollar isn't buying me more, the dollar is buying me less. And that never results in good things. Yeah, community leaders, furious, pissed off, mad because businesses are leaving. They don't want to take responsibility for what they've done, folks. They don't. They don't. They want to keep playing these games. They don't want to accept responsibility for what they do, but hey, right? It's being, this was a good one, leaked. There's some very big pharmacies in the country. There's Rite Aid, there is Walgreens. I know that Walmart is a big pharmacy company, but also CVS. And someone has released it to the public. They're calling it leaked, but it's just released. They have guidelines that require employees at CVS to use preferred pronouns, and they need to let men use the women's restrooms. This is their gender transition guidelines. These are the games they're playing in America. Gender transition guidelines. And they're splitting the country into two, these leftists. There's going to be an America for our patriots, and there's going to be an America for perverted losers. So you need to decide which one you're going to pick and then boycott the other. And in the boycott category now is CVS Pharmacy. They're right there with Dick's Sporting Goods, Nike, Budweiser, and many other corporations. The battle we're going to fight, folks, is economic, financial, monetary, legal, educational, everything. That is SHTF, folks. It has hit the fan. It truly has. Now, over the past week, I've noticed something very interesting. Right. I listen to a lot of financial discussions, right? Investment people, banker types, economic types, these egghead nerds out there. I listen to people on social issues as well, and they're not necessarily any of them patriots or constitutional Americans or preppers. They're just people out there doing what they do for a living. And I've noticed that they have jumped all over the destruction of America using these socialist tactics, these woke ideas. And they've had it. And they're now calling them, folks, what I've been calling them for weeks and weeks, a bunch of unhinged perverts. These financial guys are now calling these woke people perverts and fruitcakes. The name fruitcake has come up. I think people are getting sick and tired of it, which means we're going to have a battle royale very soon. Sooner rather than later at this point. Is it imminent? I don't know, but it is inevitable because these fruitcakes will not go away. Right? And they will lie, they will cheat, they will steal. They're going to squirm left and right, trying to get out of the shit they've caused, but they don't want to stop. Right? Budweiser tried winning back America by showing a Clydesdale horse in a commercial. as if that's going to undo everything they've done wrong, horribly wrong. Well, people aren't buying it and they're giving him shit, right? The memes even beat Budweiser to this punch, showing cows wearing horse masks, pretending to be something they're not, just as fruitcakes pretend to be women and they are not. Right? People are asking of this horse in the commercial, is the horse trans now? Right? This is where we're at. This is on the street right now. And depending on where you live, I guess it depends on what kind of response you'll get. Now, Chin Music, of course, has a sticker, and I've seen a lot of these FJB, means fuck Joe Biden stickers. They're typically oval shaped, white with a black circle border, and then the letters FJB in black. Kind of inconspicuous, but it's code. It means fuck Joe Biden, right? Depending on where you're at in the country, that can get you a thumbs up or a middle finger up. It's coming, folks. Are you prepared for what is going to happen? Right? The government, even, not just corporations, the government is continuing to push all of this shit. Pete Buttigieg, former Democrat presidential nominee, now Secretary of Transportation. He says that traffic fatalities, folks, traffic fatalities are happening because of discrimination. A lot of reasons related to discrimination, he says. Not only is Pete Buttigieg a woke-tard, he's a sick, perverted liar. This is the man who is chest feeding a newborn baby, a man chest feeding, which isn't feeding a newborn baby who's trying to get a meal. Well, this sick bastard is also trying to create more division in America and create more anti-American hatred with his bullshit. There's a lot of reasons related to discrimination. That's causing people to die. That's like telling the trans people out there, you guys are killing yourselves. But that's not really suicide. It's genocide because everyone wants you to die. Unbelievable, folks. This is where we're at. Well, okay, Jolene, do we have any other comments, questions that we want to put up? Yeah, it's Michael Brown. And he says, John, the ability to show respect, acknowledge danger, and apply violence with calculated precision are the cornerstone of survival. You can't fake those things. It will show in your character. That's a very interesting set of statements, man. The ability to show respect. When you show someone respect, they get it. When you show someone disrespect, they get it. The ability to acknowledge danger. You have to see the danger, you have to recognize the danger, and then acknowledge it. That takes something, right? And applying violence with calculated precision. That's, right, experience, training, and the ability to make a decision based on experience and training. Cornerstones of survival. That's interesting, man. And if you fake it, people see it. They just do. They just do. I hope, Michael, that you don't have to face violence. And I'm sure, though, that with calculated precision, you'll be able to make decisions in order to protect yourself and those that you love. Interesting, folks, as we get down into this, as we get to the nitty gritty, comments like this, that Michael Brown, you can feel the power in the question, the comment, the statement, right? Are you going to be able to apply violence with calculated precision if another trans person were to start shooting a gun? Now, today, I went to a restaurant to get some fresh air, a breeze, and some sunshine. And I sat on a covered patio with dozens of people, and I wondered what would happen if someone stood up, pulled a gun, and started shooting. What would my reaction be? Right? I'm sure initially it would be to drop and take cover. And then probably after that, assess how quickly could I get to the person? What type of weapon do they have? How many rounds of ammunition are in it based on the appearance of the weapon? And can I get to them before they can pull the magazine out and replace the magazine? And then put another round in battery and start shooting. Those sorts of thoughts cross my mind, right? Just interesting stuff. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it, brother, and have a great day, week, and be safe, man. Work hard, be productive, be safe. Jolene, where are we at now? We've got David, and he says, aren't the Make America Great Again groups to the right what Antifa groups are to the left? The whole thing is just another proxy war. How can we ever resist tyranny when we're busy fighting each other? That, David, is a great, shall we say, way to look at this. Antifa groups are expendable to the left. Make America Great Again groups are expendable to the right. Now, if we want to talk about what is the right, well, Make America Great Again groups are about freedom and liberty. They're not about pushing right-wing politics, which really isn't right-wing at all. What they're calling right-wing politics is just barely patriotic, right? So the Rhino Republicans like Mitch McConnell, the Rhino Republicans like Mitt Romney, like Senator shit-stained Lindsey Graham, these folks aren't right. And if they look at Make America Great Again, America First, patriotic groups, if they think they are their sacrificial pawns, I think there's a distinction or a difference. They might like to use us that way, those who love America. But you see, our goal is freedom and liberty. Now, the best way, or a way I can explain this, is who is it that you fight for? Who is it that you fight for? Now, Antifa and BLM, they fight for communism. They fight for communism. And that's what they want. And they think people like Joe Biden are going to give it to them. Bernie Sanders is going to give it to them. They refuse to look at those people. I don't hear Antifa, and I don't hear BLM, and I don't hear the LGBT crowd calling their leaders fascists, which is exactly what the Democrats are. They use communist techniques. They use communist MO to do what? To push their agenda, which is actually fascist. That is the alignment of large corporations with the government to solidify the power for both. Now, a lot of Republicans are the very same thing. Except I don't look at them and say, oh, they're my guys, they're on my side. I look at them like, well, they are not, if they're not all about freedom and liberty, if they're not about the Constitution, then they are the enemy of the country. And that's why they get the designation, the moniker of Rhino, Republican in name only. But I see what you're saying. We're busy fighting each other. I get it, Dave. I really do. If fighting breaks out on the street, up there on the street, up there on the street, if the fighting breaks out there, right, first off, the immediate threat has to be eliminated. And then you go to the next scale. Then you go up to the city and you say, we had to eliminate this problem. We want our rights back. And then you go up to the county level, to the state, and you say, we want our rights protected. We want our constitutional republic restored. Enough of this bullshit, right? We've got a big, big, big battle ahead of us, or a lot of battles, in my opinion. And it's not going to be won in a day. And they're going to be traitors. They're going to be turncoats. They're going to be sellouts. There's going to be all kinds of problems. It's not going to be a day or a week or even a year. It's going to be a decade and more before we find out who wins this battle royale, who wins the war, if you will. Right? The super rich are going to try and survive it. They always have. the super rich that invest in both sides of a war, so that no matter who wins, they benefit. They survive. That's what their goal is. Their goal is not always to make money on a war, but to survive it with as much of their wealth as possible. Because they know if they survive a war with wealth, then the winning side will allow them to do business. And then they can take whatever wealth they have left and monopolize it and make bank again and generate even more wealth in the future. But they have to pay up front. I mean, let's just say you had $10,000 and we went to war. $10,000 is all you have. So you take 5,000 of it and you bet on Russia. Then you take the other 5,000 and you bet on Europe. Now, whether Russia wins or Europe wins in this battle, the 5,000 you invested is going to turn into 100,000. Right? You got 20 times your money and you bet on both sides so that you are guaranteed to win. All you're waiting for is the war to be over, which takes a few years, and you get to be rewarded. That's what these rich 1% pieces of shit do. They have no loyalty to any country. They have loyalty to themselves, and they bet on both sides so that no matter what, they win. And ultimately, down the road, they win big. War is a racket. It always has been. For me and you, the benefit is not wealth, but freedom and liberty. So we fight for a different reason. The communist left, these little Antifa, BLM, LGBTQ type shitheads, they're in it to make financial gain. That is to take your money and your wealth at the street level for themselves, while the super rich continue to make money for themselves. But the street level people destroy everyone else down at their level if they can win. Right? They call that, sharing equally. And it is a communist principle. The rich never share. They don't like that shit at all. And if you think for a second that Democrats want communism, pure communism, they don't. They'll use Marxist principles. They want fascism. Yet it is Antifa and BLM and LGBTQ calling us Nazis and fascists, when it is in fact both the Democrat and the Republican parties, with the exception of those who want freedom and liberty, law and order, and the Constitution to stand in place as a bulwark against tyranny. That's how I see it, folks. And I think that I've spent a lot of time looking very, very hard at these people. Okay, we just crossed the hour mark. It is Sunday Night Live. I am exhausted. Do we have any questions, super chat donations, or other things out there, Jolene? Whoa, ho, ho! $750,000 in dimes have been stolen. I heard about this. Back of a semi was opened and someone stole an incredible number of dimes. You know what's going to be funny is, how do you catch this person? You catch this person going to a Coinstar and trying to turn in, right? Anyone who shows up at a Coinstar with 5-gallon buckets full of dimes, I'm sure that is going to raise some questions. Wow. I mean, how do you steal? That's just a lot of dimes. It's heavy metal. Thank you so much, Cottage Farm. People are becoming desperate. You betcha. They're becoming desperate, folks. What's funny is the rich are becoming desperate as well. So earlier we had comments about the US dollar and the BRICS system and what is money really worth. Right now, all nations, whether on the US/European side or the BRICS side, the banks are buying gold and silver hand over fist. They're buying all commodities hand over fist, including copper and zinc and other metals and other commodities. They're buying it, folks, physically taking possession. They're not buying gold paper. That's for investors. The banks are buying gold bars because they don't trust either side. They don't trust the BRICS side. They don't trust the American European side. It's going to come down to who has the gold. Just like the SHTF war on your street is going to come down to who has the bullets, beans, and bandages. That is who is going to win on our street level. On the national level, it is what banks have the gold and the silver and the commodities. Uh-oh. Rutro. Doing stuff with Nikki did a $50 super chat Venmo donation. Thank you very much, Nikki. And let's see what she says. Effing dingbats, let's do a shot. That is definitely a Nikki. I think that she's going to push Uman into this as well. So I've got my trusty bottle of Glenlivet single malt Scotch whiskey. I love the sound of that, right? Just a great sound. Thank you very much, Nikki. I hope everything is well in your neck of the woods. I know that you're probably somewhere down there in the Florida zone. I'm sure, am well north of wherever you're at. The Glenlivet 18. Thank you very much, Nikki. Prost. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Woo! Good stuff. Thank you, and thank you, folks, for supporting this channel and supporting freedom and liberty. Do it. Done. That's good stuff. Oh, my goodness. All right. Folks, I want to end the show on this unless I get another super chat donation come in. There's interesting efforts being made. We're seeing all these distractions with Budweiser and our social crap, but there's a problem. United States Senator Johnson, as well as other senators, folks, have been fighting to get into the Biden family, shall we say, hustle. And I see this effort to get in there is why there are distractions, right, for us to hide what's going on. You see, these U.S. senators have evidence. And Senator Johnson was on the news. And there's a lot of news out there, folks. But Senator Johnson has been going after the Bidens. He said, let's face it, Senator Grassley and I pretty well laid out the case against the grifting Biden family back in September of 2020, before the election. Our report was completely ignored by the media, just as they ignored the Hunter Biden laptop, because they're advocates for the left themselves. I'm going to stop right there because that scotch was really good. I'm going to stop right there. This is not John talking. This is not Zero Hedge. This is not the Drudge Report. This is not the Gateway Pundit. This is not some right-wing fruitcake. This is Senator Johnson from the United States Senate talking about the grifting, that is, the money grubbing Biden family. He says, we're going to find out now is just, he says, and so what we're finding out now is just new pieces of evidence of the grifts that the Biden family have been involved with. The shakedowns, folks, the money tree being shaken by the Bidens. He says the bank records that basically confirm what the Treasury records showed from Senator Grassley in my report. I think what recently reported on Fox is the trying to get into the sovereign wealth funds like Ireland and some of these other countries. Where did Biden spend the last week? In Ireland. Sovereign wealth funds. He's there shaking them down. Johnson continues, you know, our report shows something like a dozen different countries that Hunter Biden was again peddling the family name, trying to sell influence. In other words, if you give them money, kind of like China has been shown to have transferred money to the Bidens, showing that, see, we're paying to play, now give us our benefits. That's what influence peddling is. You make a deposit in one of their bank accounts, and all of a sudden you'll be the beneficiary of U.S. policy. So Senator Johnson continues, but I think the trying to tap into sovereign wealth funds, I think, is pretty revealing. Now, that was Senator Johnson, who was also talking about Senator Grassley. Now, the Gateway Pundit reported that Representative Comer, who is in the House of Republicans, right? Republican from Kentucky. He said the Biden crime family saying in an interview, quote, they've been influence peddling for a decade, and Hunter Biden has committed serious crimes. As you mentioned, 150 suspicious activity reports. Those are known as SARCs. Those are the most severe bank violations. This is when the bank notifies the federal government that we're pretty confident that our client has committed a crime. He's had multiple banks file 150 suspicious activity reports saying we believe each instance was another act of a crime. Yet the FBI did nothing about it. We're investigating Hunter Biden because we believe he's a national security threat. So both the Senate and the House of Representatives right now, the senators and they're Republicans, folks, they do not have a majority. The House Republicans do. And so the question is, where is Speaker of the House? Where is he? Kevin McCarthy. Where is he? Where is Republican Speaker of the House McCarthy? There was a great article that was out on this guy, right? Where are the January 6th videos that were supposed to be released? Where is the investigation into the District of Columbia's absolutely filthy, corrupt U.S. attorneys and judges? Where is the impeachment that has been so well earned and the criminal charges that would follow? You see these distractions, folks, with the LGBTQers and Budweiser beer are to keep us scared, confused, pissed, unwilling to move. The threats of war with Taiwan are to keep us distracted. Same with North Korea. There's nothing really going to happen there. When it really comes down to it, this is a fucking shakedown by the Biden family, by the Democrat Party, by the super rich. They're shaking us all down. That's really what this is about, is stealing our money, our wealth, stealing it from us as a nation, as states, and as individuals. That's how I see this. And they're telling us to look at each other and fight with each other. That's what they're doing. They want us to fight with each other. That's what they want, to divide and conquer. They want you to be disarmed. They want you to feel guilty. But ultimately, they just want everyone to just shut up and let them continue to screw us over. That is really where we're at with this. That's what they want to do to us. Fuck us over. Steal our country and sterilize as many kids as they can. Kill as many people with the Jim Jones juice as they can. Keep everyone concerned and afraid to take action on their own behalf. Keep us fighting each other. Right? Bring into doubt our own monetary system, our own country. That's what they're doing, folks. I want everyone prepared, and then prep to action. We're at an hour and 15 minutes. I am mentally spun up. I really am. I'm exhausted. I want to get a good night's sleep because I think this week coming up, we're going to have a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. We've got to get through this week and into next, and then we're going to be back on the Prime Prepared Mind channel. It will be reaching out and reaching thousands and thousands of people again. There is also, as part of this SHTF war, it's an information and psychological war. And they don't want you and your intelligence to be a part of it. So they want to silence every way possible, right? What it is that you and I are thinking about and talking about. I'll be back first thing in the morning for 0 Dark 30. And then I'll be back in the afternoon on subscribestar.com and the preparedmind.club, where we can talk and share and get things done. Wake up, people. Fight back. Protect yourselves. Get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. And Jolene, what is it? What do you got? What do you have in mind? I'm getting a message in the background. The answer is nothing. Okay. Folks, yeah, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. And aren't you glad you are a patriotic prepper? I'll see you soon.